What up, y'all? Hold on, give me 2 seconds. Okay. 2 seconds over with. What's happening? Hopefully, y'all are doing very, very well. I don't think I need my headphones today. Welcome in. Oh, somebody's already here. Welcome. I am super late. I scheduled this for 6:45, and then I got to sort of getting into. I was chatting about what I'm going to talk about today on this episode, and I was getting excited. And then I looked up and I was like, oh, 6:55. Okay, let's go. I'm 10 minutes late. Hello. Welcome back to the Inner Storyteller. Welcome back to your real life. Y'all, we have a great episode planned for today because my friend uh sent me a document that was kicked out by one of his AI things. He's working on um projects regarding what's called meta credit or meta currency and or maybe meta credit currencies. Regardless, he's working on these alternate meta currency. There we go, meta currency. Um, these alternate, you know, alternative approaches to exploring ways that economies can be somewhat similar to what we see today as far as currency goes, but also with enough elements that provide for, I guess, more of a freedom and more of a actual um more of an accuracy for what it considers a price, what it considers just being super more accurate and just different. Anyway, they're working on alternative ways to do the money game, and so he fed his AI the transcript from Saturday's episode and part 3 of the Religion of Monetary Value series playlist on the channel. Um, I should put the playlist in the description since I'm gonna mention a lot from this playlist today, and this is not in the playlist. Regardless, playlist on the channel. It's called the Religion of Monetary Value, the ROMV. But he fed part 7 and part 3 of those episodes into his AI and had it um analyze it in com- contrast in contrast to Arthur Brock and Eric Harris Braun's meta currency and David Graeber's work, his Debt, the first 5,000 years book, and just some of the academic research on what they call mutual credit. And we're going to react to this. We're going to react to this today. And I'm very excited because first of all, let me clarify a couple things. This person did not put it in there and say argue against Soul's, thing here. Um it's AI. It doesn't know things the way that humans do and doesn't perceive differences in wording the way that humans do with human understanding. So, you know, uh it's it's a little hostile towards the way that I put things in certain areas of it, but it also gives good pushback to certain things that it interpreted from reading the two transcripts. And also, it's putting two YouTube transcripts against full books and internet research on mutual credit or whatever. So know those two things, and I'm getting ready to share the screen. Boom. Add the stage. Raka. All right. So, okay, let's get into it. The ledger and the religion. Of course, talking about the religion of monetary value. Oh, and before we begin, of course, the housekeeping. If you are here, good people, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channels. Welcome back to the Inner Storyteller. Welcome back to your real life. You are in for some real conversations. We talk about natural law, we talk about religion, money, anarchy, culture, and how mankind is manipulated from the shadows by people that do not have our best interests at heart. Perhaps because they are completely evil. I don't know. But, I say we talk about religion. We're not bashing faith systems or anything like that here. We are simply examining the psychological affects and effects of the stories we have the most faith in, the stories we have the most stake in, and how those stories help shape society. And that examination has to sit right alongside an honest look at the current human condition, which is slavery. Government is slavery, good people. And the question that we always have to return to on this channel is what can actually be improved with a proper understanding of the inner storyteller and how it works. So let's dive right in. It starts with the religion of monetary value, inner storyteller, parts 3 and 7. So there's those 2 episodes from that playlist. Checked against Arthur Brock and Eric Harris Braun's Meta Currency Corpus, David Graeber's Debt, the first 5,000 years, and the academic research on mutual credit. And again, I'm not familiar with these 2 people's work. I am familiar with this, and it's like a contrast. So it's going to be a little hostile towards me, but it's just AI. It's AI slop, if you will. But it's great. I love it. I love it. I loved every moment of reading this. It was so fun. So boom, the short version. Your instinct is well founded. The speaker gets one important stretch of history right. The barter origin myth is false. Credit and debt records really do precede coinage, and that genuinely is Graeber's finding. But nearly everything he builds on top of that foundation runs against his own cited source, meaning what's cited in those episodes, and almost point for point against Brock and Harris Braun. The deepest split is this: the speaker treats the act of accounting for obligation as the original lie, the thing that must be uninstalled from the human psyche. Brock and Harris Braun treat accounting for flows as the core social technology of our species, the thing to be redesigned, multiplied, and taken back from its enclosures. Now, we're going to pause right there and clarify a little bit. So, the speaker treats the act of accounting for obligation as the original lie. No, I say the original lie is that monetary value exists. Okay? That value can be looked at the way we look at monetary value. That's the original lie in my work and on this channel. And just a clarification, right? And it says that they look at accounting for flows as the core social technology of our species. And I don't disagree there. I think accounting for flows of real things, even if they're intangible real things like people's ideas and intellectual property, and it all kind of comes down to ideas, which are intangible real resources that come from us, right? And then there's all of the tangible things, the goods and the services that we produce, create, invent, distribute. I don't disagree, not one iota, on that. So, it says, that accounting for flows is what's to be redesigned, multiplied, and taken back from its enclosures. Absolutely. Absolute and toot and lootly. Let's continue. Mutual credit. Their favored design of the money game is literally someone gives you an apple, you owe them an orange pattern made it explicit, voluntary, and transparent. When the speaker names, what the speaker names as the root false belief of a slave religion, which it is the exact mechanism the metacurrency tradition builds with. Now, here's where I'm coming from with someone gives you an apple, you owe them an orange. I say there's no reality to the notion that there is an owing because a kindness happened or an instruction was followed of some kind. You asked somebody to do something and they did it. Now you owe them. That there's an owing that actually occurs in nature. Okay? I don't say that reciprocity is a bad thing. I don't say that reciprocity is a dangerous thing. I say the way that we are trained to accept and to receive and to give reciprocity is false. And it's built on a different lie, which is monetary value exists. So that's what I say there, right? Because it's not true, in my view, that when someone gives you an apple, you owe them an orange. We cannot actually say because an act of kindness or an act of malice or an act of help or something like that happened in the past, there is an owing of something else happening between the same parties in the future. It's fine to act that out, but when you act it out in such a way that you believe that it's a true thing, that creates chaos every time. So what the speaker names as the root false belief of a slave religion. And we're going to get into how that chaos produces a slave religion in a very short moment. So what the speaker names as the root belief of a slave religion is the exact mechanism the metacurrency tradition builds with. I also agree there. It is the same mechanism that they build with, and it's possible to build something that's not slavery with some of these tools because currencies are flows of real things. Again, I have no beef with the concept of currency. Great comment here from Nick. I think the word here is owe versus having an agreement of exchange with that both parties want. Exactly. Consensual contracts should be honored. That consensual contracts do create an owing because you're going into it knowingly, willingly, voluntarily, informed, right? Absolutely. Completely agree. And that's the point. So, boom. What the academic literature, for its part, quietly undermines the academic literature, for its part, quietly undermines the speaker's central causal claim that a monetary system necessarily births an armed state. It doesn't refute it. And I'm going to have a lot of fun when we get there. 90 years of the Swiss WIR, 15 of the Sardex, and a shelf of credit network theory show reciprocal obligation clearing at scale, with no state enforcement of the unit itself. I was drinking a smoothie right before I went live, and I'm belching now. So boom. Again, 90 years of the Swiss WIR, 15 years of Sardex, and they forgave obligation. Though it was without state enforcement of the unit itself, though never without some functional authority, like vetting, credit limits, reputation, contract, all of which must be enforced by human hands. Nobody has demonstrated anonymous, society-wide mutual credit with no governance at all. Systems that tried, like Argentina's Trek at millions of users, collapsed through overissuance and not violence. Yeah, because it's not real. So okay. Well, that's kind of the short version. So it's going to reiterate all of the points that it just made, and I don't want to react to the Swiss thing, that concept just yet, because when it explains what it means, I'll have more to say, right? Make sure I'm not missing any comments. Okay, cool. Let's get into it. What the speaker actually claims. It also gets a lot of my claims right or very, very close to right as far as like how I would put it. So boiling 2 hours of the 2 episodes down to their load-bearing assertions. So from part 3, the religion of monetary value, money is real, required, and the legitimate gatekeeper of nature's abundance, right? Is the mother of all religions. The religion of man's authority, which is any form of government or any form of external governance, is the father, and the mother gives birth to the father by necessity. Money belief comes first, the state is its enforcement product. And I make a point, ancient Sumerians couldn't read the tablets recording their debts, like the farmer, the cook, the whatever. The world was largely illiterate thousands of years ago. It was largely illiterate, about 1,000 years ago. um, the tablets recording their debts. So participation was basically compliance rather than informed consent, i.e., slavery. And the same functional illiteracy persists today. The same functional slavery via everybody being financially illiterate exists today. You can you can sound out the words trying to read through things like the Securities Act of 1933 or the Electronic Funds Transfer Act or the United States Code. When it comes to the banking codes or whatever, you can sound out the words that you're not familiar with and read the rest of the words that you are familiar with. But it doesn't mean that you actually right now, present day, right now, have a good understanding of the financial system. And most of us don't. And most of us will not. Most of us will go our entire life without having a quote unquote expertise, a good grasp on the financial system. And all of them were like that. Every single one. Every single one. That I've ever looked into. Either that or straight coercion. Same thing as far as the result. It produces chaos. So, can't understand it. Only two things get projects done, and that's work and knowledge. And nobody can make that untrue. Work, it's said backwards on purpose so that you get both words without skipping the second one. But knowledge and work, those are the two inseparable ingredients from projects getting done. The only inseparable ingredients are doing the project itself, the actual thing manifesting in time and space, and the knowledge of how to get it done, what's needed, where those needs are, how to get those needs met, blah, blah, blah. The knowledge. That's it. Nobody can make that statement untrue. Only those two things get projects done. The transaction layer is completely fictional, at least so far as the monetary value part. The money and the accounting does physically happen, but value, the word value being, the concept of value, the feeling of value being exchanged happens only one way. Whoever actually provides the service provides value or a good or product or time or whatever. The one that is giving the money is just receiving because there's no value in the money. Now, there's no natural value in the money. From part 7, the 5 core false beliefs. First, we already went over reciprocity. When someone gives you an apple, you owe them an orange. That's the root belief. All the other beliefs stand on this one. Owing is not innate. Owing is installed. That's my conjecture. That's my take, right? Nature never requires exchange for exchange. That's true. Belief number 2. that sits most prominently on the foundation of belief number one. Monetary value exists. Money, which is symbolic and pointing to nothing at all, except an idea, is real. Money, the symbol, is real. Monetary value is a fiction no one can give reality to in conversation. This applies to gold and silver just as much as fiat and digital. Pricing any medium makes it a debt system. When you make put a price, then you now have, from belief number one, someone gives you $10, you owe them an orange, right? Someone gives you an orange, you owe them $10. I hope that's never the price of an orange, but you know what I'm saying. Now, belief number three: value can be disconnected from the present moment. A price tag freezes a living contingent relational value into a stagnant noun. But in reality, value depends on the present moment. Whatever, um, if you have a sandwich and you actually just finished eating a steak, someone gives you a sandwich. They say, "Here you go," and then they leave. That sandwich has little value to you unless you're still super hungry, right? But if you have gone without real good food for a substantial amount of time, and then someone sees you suffering and gives you a sandwich, well, that's worth millions of dollars. That's worth millions of oranges, right? They just made your whole day. And depending on who you are and what your story is, they made your whole year. They made your whole life. It depends on you. It depends on the right here, right now. That is how value is actually the what we get from value is actually experienced only in relation to the story of our life, to how we perceive and experience this time that we have here. When you put a price on something, you say, actually, that apple is $3.99. It's $3.99. That's the price today. You stagnate the value for everybody. When it's an individual, when in nature, in reality, in truth, it's never stagnant for the individual. It's never stagnant for the experiencer. Period. So that's belief number three. Belief number four: authority over the use of force is necessary for human flourishing. People really believe this, guys. They may not say these words, right? But when you get down to it, and you start bringing up the fact that government is just a weird form of gang violence, and it's all about slavery, and it's all about resource management, where the few go, no, you're gonna have as much as I say you're gonna have, or we're gonna hurt you, and we go, yes, master. Okay, that relationship is necessary in a lot of people's minds when you start getting into it, because what they say is, well, you can't be an anarchist. You can't just invite chaos into everybody's life. That's coercive too. You can't just erase my ability to call the government and complain about something that happened in my life, some bully, somebody, something happening in my life. And it's like, well, actually, two things. First of all, human beings do like protecting other human beings. They like being protectors and heroes and showing up for people. So that sort of occupation and apparatus of that field of study and field of practice wouldn't go away just because the government's not around, or there's no concept of the divine right to rule over your peers operating in the human psyche of almost every human being on earth at all times. Um, our our ability to create solutions and run projects in our local space that solve real problems does not go away when we do away with the false story about government being legitimate and real. So, uh, you know, belief number 4 postulates a fiction, or I say a fiction cannot enforce itself naturally, a fiction like monetary value. So, any monetary system must create armed enforcement alongside itself. And this is what I say the mother of all religions gives birth to the father of all religions. The monetary system gives birth to the state. And logically, that does follow, in my opinion. There's a lot. There's so much to be said that I can't just like prove it to you in 5 sentences. But that's my opinion from my work. And belief number 5: the free market would work if not for bad actors. Okay, the free market is the solution if we just do away with all of the weird interest stuff and the weird banking practices and government interfering with the market and and just allow people to get the loan and start the business and take on the risk and see if their business holds up in the market. That is the solution, right? Make the document a bit bigger. Yeah. Yeah. There you go. um but bad actors keep making it so that government keeps interfering and we can't actually know because we got the oligarchies and we got this corporate socialism going on, you know. And if it wasn't for the bad actors, then the system would work. I say obviously that that's backwards thinking, right? That's the system is designed to produce people that want to act like that, who are willing to act like that, even when everybody else is trying to just use the system that the government makes us use and do right by other people. Everybody else is normal, right? Even if they're not nice, they're still not trying to do wrong by other people, largely. Um, People willing to act how the oligarch, the people running the huge, too big to fail corporations that don't help with anything useful, and give us cheap shit that we have to keep coming back for because it's not quality and all of the things that they do. Okay, these people are produced by the false beliefs themselves. They come together, and generations later they produce people that are built for this game in that way, in my opinion. So yeah, and I say that that's basically a level 1 freedom seekers mental trap. That belief number 5: the free market would work if not for the bad actors. That's a trap, and it's a trap for people who are like coming into embracing how uncomfortable it is that we are just so mistreated all the time, right? And by the government. And it reloads beliefs 1 through 4 and just adds a villain narrative called bad actors. And my theory of change, it says remove these 5 beliefs from the human psyche at mass scale, and the entire money game falls apart. Money and government done away with like the games that they are. And I do call them games, good people. Games, GAMES. They are built on coercion, persuasion, right? Seduction. They're built on agreement. They are not actually real. And we, instead of using them actually like tools, like take money, money for instance, you use money as a tool for maybe some large scale projects, and then you put it down when you don't need it, or you um relax about the books not being perfectly balanced for things that don't actually matter because it's a game, because it's not real. The resources are still there, right? We got all of the thrown away food because nobody bought it, and we have all of these laws against just sharing food. you know If we throw how much food the United States alone throws away every day. Like let me just contextualize this real quick. Share this tab instead. How much food does the United States throw away every day? 350 million pounds of food goes to waste every single day. Now we're a pretty big place. So it's kind of understandable that the number is that big, but it's not understandable when, you have everybody starving. You go to any major city and just go downtown and everybody's starving. Unless they're, driving by the starving people in their Tesla. Now, what Brock and Harris Braun actually built. The metacurrency project's frame, is almost a mirror image wearing the same critique. That's pretty funny, right? That is like, and he's so against everything that they said, and then calls it a mirror image. Currencies, what we see, are formal symbol systems for shaping, enabling, and measuring flows. And money is only a narrow, badly designed member of the family, a fingernail on the animal of currencies. Grades, degrees, reputation ratings, Olympic medals, they're all currencies. So accolades, if you will. Wealth spans three registers: tradable wealth, measurable wealth, and acknowledgeable wealth. Tradable wealth is like goods and services, measurable is like your health, your performance, productivity, sustainability. And acknowledgement is trust, love, and standing, which is a court talk term. And the design sin of the modern economy is forcing one scarce, interest bearing, bank issued instrument to carry all of it. Forcing one scarce, interest bearing, bank issued instrument to carry all of it. Scarce, it is doing a lot of legwork in that in that sentence, because I don't see how bank issued instruments are scarce at all. But regardless, if this is AI, there's nobody we can ask about that. Um, their charge sheet against conventional money is as radical as the speakers. Money, as currently practiced, inherently destroys many forms of social well-being. These people do not super disagree with what I say. That's what this voice is coming from. Yeah, they print money. They print money. How is it scarce, right? Um, but again, it's AI, right? So boom, the Pareto concentration is built into the uh, rules of the game, like Monopoly. But the indictment of design, never of the existence of value accounting itself. Yeah, the existence of value accounting is probably inevitable with so many people on Earth, using resources. Nothing wrong with record keeping. Their constructive program is mutual credit, currency issued by participants at the moment of transaction. One account, one account going -20 as the other goes +20. Net supply permanently zero. Credit limits earned through demonstrated history. That's that sounds nice. But whether it's an AI or a group of people, there's gonna be bias as to who is behaving the best. Oops, I didn't mean that. I hate that you can click things in this document. I've done that a couple times. Anyway, it sounds nice. Through demonstrated history, there's gonna be bias, especially if it's humans, as to who has demonstrated the history to get the credit. So that sounds nice, but that's what I would say to that. Here we go. Hollow fuel is this design at crypto scale. Nobody ever gets to create something from nothing. There is no minting, no mining, no burning of coins. Asset and no printing. Asset of paper. Asset backed by computing capacity. So there we go. It's computing capacity. Countersigned peer-to-peer and validated without global consensus or a central issuer. Tokens are not what makes a decentralized system work. Cryptographic signatures and self-validating data structures are. Enforcement is replaced by intrinsic data integrity, peer validation. Uh-oh. Human beings. Uh-oh. Peer validation, reputation consequence. Uh-oh. Social credit. And the right to fork. Accountability without armed men. Yeah. Okay. Every contribution, communication, or action is signed. There will always be a trail of evidence left. By the way, my sarcasm is for what the AI is putting into words. I have not read their books yet, so I'm not responding to these gentlemen with this snarky attitude. I think I said that in the intro, but just in case Nick wasn't here yet, you know, I'm just being me. But yeah, there is no peer validation followed by reputation consequence and no some sort of like um the reason why I went into in the beginning AI being not a good tool for certain trains of thought is because it cannot understand the human element of the root of our issues here when it comes to everything stemming from everything I perceive as stemming from the religion of monetary value. Deeper topics can be interpreted interpreted interpreted. Okay. Deeper topics can be interpreted positive or dystopian, but those concerns can be addressed. Absolutely, they can. Let's get. Oh no, here we go. So, the comparison ledger. Number one, I love this section. What money is? I say the speaker says monetary value does not exist. A fiction maintained by a manipulative few, sorcerers, mind controllers, running only because enough minds run the same false story. So it's a fiction running only because enough people in the same region at the same time are running the same false story. Money is real as a symbol, but the value that it denominates is unreal, which just basically means quantifies, in the way that gravity and magnetism are real. It doesn't there's no mass. You can't look under a rock and say, "Oh, there's monetary value." Right? You can't actually cut a brick of gold in half and spill out the monetary value. There's no such thing. um So dispel the belief and the symbols never meant anything in the first place. Where Brock and Harris Braun may say, currencies are real social technologies, information systems communities create. Social agreements aren't lesser reality, they're the medium of collective life. No disagreement there. There is no such thing as a value neutral currency. Every currency is a designed instrument that wires a part of a pattern of awareness. The problem is bad design and enclosure, not fictionhood. Ergo the human element. That's the problem. Niggas. MFers, okay? And the gap between the speaker and the authors, both agree monetary value isn't a feature of physics. The speaker concludes it's therefore an illusion to abolish, whereas the authors conclude that it's therefore designable, and that uh, not found in nature, quote unquote, describes every language, protocol, and institution humans coordinate through. That's just dumb. That's just a dumb AI slop sentence. No, language is found in nature. Everything that moves in nature has a language. Even trees have a language. That was just dumb. Protocol, everything has instinct is natural protocol. That you have instincts, you have the patterns of behavior that are derived from like physical things like your genetics and whatnot. All of that. That's protocol. That's a form of protocol. Just because it's not written down first. We hear protocol and we think it has to be codified or something. It's in your your what's it called when you just get a job, um onboarding manual and shit. That's the only thing that protocol can exist. No, there's protocol in nature. Now institutions, that's a human thing. That's a human thing. So institutions are also not found in nature, but an institution that it just does just AI slop. So we can ignore that sentence. I thought I had fun when I read that the first time. Just like looking at it, like trying to find the truth in it. I was like, what the hell? But anyway, so back to the gap. The speaker's own admission that reputation is a currency for sure concludes their whole framework because we agree there. Boom. Reciprocity and owing. The speaker says this is the root false belief. Kindness is complete in itself in the now. That's a true statement. The second you attach and therefore something is owed, you've left the event for a narrative. You have entered into a story. This is also a true statement. I'm not even going to say my opinion. This is a true statement. As soon as you attach, now therefore something is owed, you are now in a story. You are not in reality, for what it's worth. Nature never requires exchange for exchange. True. So building economic, true in my opinion. Or I believe it's true. So building economics on reciprocity means it's all a debt system and it's all bullshit. Yep. Here we go. The contrast. This says we diverge head on. This diverges head on. Mutual credit is formalized reciprocal obligation, meaning owing. Alice pays Bob 20 credits. Alice's account now has minus 20 credits and Bob's has plus 20 credits. Balance and settlement are the design's virtue, but they also honor the speaker's intuition in a different register. Gift transactions are deliberately imbalanced and open-ended. Build relationship and must not be collapsed into exchange logic, and the reputation must stay orthogonal to exchange. I do not spend my high school degree. So, the high school degree is the currency. The accolade is the currency. We don't disagree on that. The gap. The speaker sees one point. It's funny. This whole thing agrees with my 2 episodes. Here we go. The speaker sees one poison. The authors see a spectrum of registers, each valid in its domain. No, the speaker sees the root. What the speaker experiences as an ancient mind control installation, they treat as a design distinction that you get right or wrong. Force gift logic through exchange rails and you corrode community. Force exchange logic onto gifts and you get the speaker's complaint. His error in their terms is prescribing gift register rules for the entire economy. No, that's just how it's practiced. That's just how it's practiced. So that's my complaint. Partial overlap. So this one's not too head to head in the eyes of the AI. Accounting and record keeping. The speaker. Dismissive. Accounting and record keeping. The only thing that moves in the financial world is digits from one ledger to another. You could say symbols from one ledger to another. That's true. In the financial world, the only thing that ever moves is digits. Sorry. That's an unconditional promise to pay, an unconditional order to pay. Those are ledger marked digits. Those are the what I'm talking about. Just numbers from this ledger go to this one, and hopefully the books are balanced. That's all that moves. That's true. Yet he also concedes, it says concedes, answering the resource allocation obligation, we already keep track when things are getting low. Money is not the only record keeping that we do. We record keep for everything already, and we always have. Don't see how that's a concession, but let's continue. The authors say, we use currencies to keep record of currents. Accounting is precisely the point. The last record of disappearing, the lasting record of disappearing flows. Their program expands record keeping into forms of wealth money can't see. So just actual value, maybe, or at least something trying to be based on actual value. You're still stagnating it when you write down a price in my work, but you know something closer, maybe a little more aligned with truth. Monetary economics formalized the same insight, and this person's Money is Memory book in Jet, I guess, magazine in 1998 proves that money is technologically equivalent to a societal record of past transactions. AI slop. The speaker's concession is their premise. If communities must keep track when things are getting low, then they need a shared symbol system for flows. That's all good as long as there's no monetary value doctrine that is used as a control apparatus and freedom differential between one class of people and another, or between three classes of people. Actually, you have the rule makers at the very top, and then you have those who have a lot, and then you have those who have none to a little. um the three classes of people with monetary value, then then yeah, account for flows, because we've always done that, because we do need to do that in societies. Which is their definition of currency? The speaker is closer to inventing metacurrency than to refuting it. Okay, number 4. Does money require the armed state? The speaker. Yes, obviously. You knew I was not going to say no. Yes. I'm saying that like I typed this. A debt system built on a fiction cannot enforce itself naturally. So every monetary system must create physical enforcement alongside itself. Monarch, state, senate, central bank, government is that apparatus. Hence, no money without slavery, and no fix short of abolishing both. One key word inside this whole thing is every. So every monetary system must create physical enforcement alongside itself. No, it's not that every monetary system, blah, blah, blah. It's that the religion of monetary value does not work without armed enforcement. Hold on, let me see what the comment is. AI keeps using money and currency interchangeably on the right-hand side. Right. Right. But also uh it's acknowledging over and over that currency has a bigger definition. So, you know what I mean? We gotta use it with the bigger definition every time, because we don't know. We can't ask the AI, well, what did you mean by this? Because it's not a person with memory. I know you know that already. Sorry, I'm just rambling here. So here we go. I say that every is an unnecessary word. It's just monetary systems must create physical enforcement alongside itself. When you say every, then you define the problem differently, or you define the picture, what's happening in the picture differently, and wrongly. It's not about every, and here's what I mean by that. The authors say no, monetary money does not require an armed state. Currency issuance is a community's right, and it defined currency very broadly, and outside of money, right here in on the last page. Um, so it's community's right, not the state's right. It's all of us who create value, all of us who need and maintain our capacities to it. All of us account for value we create. Well, accounting for value by applying arbitrary stagnated, even if it's temporarily stagnated, representations of value, meaning fictional value, and superimposing that on top of real value creates chaos. It does. It creates chaos in the mind and in our behavior patterns every time. It's you just don't get better and closer to truth by forcing a fiction upon all of the people that live around you. It's just not how life works. So currency, they may say, currency issuance is a community's right, not a state's right. We all create the value. Enforcement is replaced by cryptographic countersigning, again, peer validation, credit limits, reputation, and exit by forking. Non-coercive by construction. A commons can't be shut down and can't compel. You can always leave with the value you created. And if the entire world adopted this all at once in one day, that would be a system that's closer, in my opinion, that's a little more aligned with truth. But it does not create reality in the notion of monetary value, and it still has all of the room in the world to end up exactly where we are today, because human beings would be in charge of designing, maintaining, checking on, and thereby enforcing the rules of this system when enough people have concocted their schemes, to break the rules. It, you know, it, th- and I'm not blaming the AI for not understanding the human element. It's like you can very easily get an AI to start advocating for certain ideas spouted by communist regimes that have millions of starved people on their records, because an AI just doesn't understand the human element because it's not an alive thing, right? Here, anyway, I think y'all get what I mean by that. I think I've been harping on that all episode. I'm gonna stop. What the evidence says. Qualified support for the authors. WIR has cleared obligations since 1934, Sardex since 2010, with no state enforcement of the unit, but never with zero authority. WIR is a licensed bank taking collateral, and Sardex vets members under Italian contract law. Credit networks bound exposure mathematically. The scholarly split, these two things, uh, chartalists versus credit theorists, Ray versus these two names, Inez and Ingham, is precisely over how much authority the money of account needs. Nobody in either camp holds the speaker's position that accounting per se entails armed slavery. Yeah, that's completely fine. Accounting doesn't. Enforcing, or excuse me, making the law of the region that commerce is done through the exchange of monetary value for goods and services is what entails armed slavery. And the Swiss WIR, the bank that didn't have state enforcement of the unit, the market is global. Okay. Borderlines are just as fake as governments and monetary value. It's they exist via somebody said so and bullied everybody into saying yes sir, yes ma'am. That's how borderlines exist. And the money movements that go through Swiss banks, and I don't know the exact history of the WIR experience, but I know for sure that if this experiment is just clearing obligations left and right since 1934, and the Swiss banking um, apparatus, the Swiss banking circles have, uh, like the number one in the world reputation for kind of looking the other way with funny, huge money movements from people all over the world. The secret Swiss account reputation, right? It's like, well, no, the market is global, so just remove the concept for acknowledging the reality that it doesn't matter. The armed enforcement has to be a part of the equation. Remove the borderlines, and there you go. The entire world, the global market, was enforced for all of those years since 1934. In fact, 1933, we got the Securities Act here, and our whole thing changed here in the States. Sure, 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 sure. It's a good example to look into. Absolutely. Everything should be looked into. And then we got the use of Graeber's work, David Graeber's work. The speaker cites debt, the first 5,000 years, as proof that the barter system, barter first, is a myth. Correct. Credit preceded money and money preceded barter. Correct. Therefore, owing someone is not innate. Also correct. It's not natural. It's an installed belief. With the state as the necessary product of the monetary religion. Absolutely correct in my view. The mother generates the father. What Graeber wrote: the difference between a debt and an obligation is that a debt can be precisely quantified. This requires money. Quantified debt. Obligation itself is universal. His baseline communism is the ground of all human social life. He describes civilizations that worked by non-counted, simply sharing and helping and doing things and acting in a way that you could say people were doing right by their fellow human beings around them and doing right by their neighbors and the neighboring families without doing much accounting for anything. His baseline, and he called it baseline communism, basically, is the ground of all human social life. We share. People need help. We grow things. We like to cook. We like to build. We like to destroy. We like to do all of the things. So they call it the ground of the ground of all human social life. And human economies are dense webs of mutual, unquantified owing. Pardon me. And the casual arrow he actually draws is states created markets. Markets require states. Neither could continue without the other. His remedy is a jubilee, not an abolition, reminding ourselves that money is not ineffable. These things are human arrangements. And we may disagree on that point. Where I say we need to abolish it, he may say we need to just change it. It's his prerogative. We may disagree there. 3 inversions. So first, Graeber states that states create markets. The speaker reverses it into the money belief births the state, because that's how it works. The um the fact that states create markets is how he worded it in his book, doesn't negate the fact that in reality, when you when you go to say, this is how we are going to quantify the value of the resources and the services and the goods and whatnot in this region of the world, and you're going to be compliant or you're going to be in trouble. That is the monetary, right, resource management. That is the monetary value coming first. That's just how it works. So that's just true. The second, Graeber's target is the quantification of obligation and its enforcement through violence, not owing itself, which he treats as the fabric of human life. Awesome. Third, Graeber, who was an actual anarchist, still didn't conclude that money must be dispelled as illusion. He wanted its arrangements made democratic and forgivable. Where the speaker does echo Graeber fairly, chapter 5 of Debt really does attack the assumption that all human relations reduce to reciprocity or exchange, but Graeber resolves it by naming three coexisting moral registers: communism, exchange, and hierarchy, not by declaring exchange an elite installation. Well, I'm no communist. And I'm kidding when I say that. Basically, I mean, this is pretty self-explanatory. It says where it thinks I align with his thoughts and where we don't align, and I don't have any problem with what it said. So, boom, price in present moment. The speaker. Pricing freezes something alive into a noun. Value is a verb, 1000% dependent on the now. Okay, so I explained that earlier. It's a a stagnated price is a snapshot that was already wrong the moment it was taken. Therefore, pricing itself is illegitimate. And it left out some of that train of thought. Basically, the market determines where prices go when they move, right? You have market response, and you're going to change your price according to the movements, the supply, demand, the mindset, the what's going on as far as wars and global news and what's going on locally to whatever. The market is going to make prices fluctuate. And that's both artificially, by uh, falsely creating an illusion that makes people buy a whole lot more or a whole lot less of something, or naturally and organically through the organic accolades that you as a business owner creating a project or an inventor or some sort of talent of some kind are doing a thing and many people are flocking to it. Regardless, as soon as a price gets put on something, that price, hi, CPT, um, stagnates the value. Now, they agree that, or excuse me, they may say, this is AI. They may say they agree that a market price reflects only its current standing in a particular gambling market, not actual value. And that's money, not value. Okay. And that's money's single scarce metric structurally, and that money's single scarce metric structurally cannot represent most of the wealth spectrum. Most of the wealth spectrum is the currencies as broadly defined as they were before. Their cure is more and richer measurement, currency ecosystems tuned to what each community treasures. You treasure what you measure, so you measure what you treasure. Local solutions for local problems. I agree 1000%. The gap. One number can't capture living value. Speaker derives measure nothing. No, I don't say measure nothing, but I explained that already. All right. Um, bad actors keep messing it up. We already kind of went over that. I just think that's where people land when they get suspicious of government. They go, um, oh man, if the government would just stop interfering, then the system would work how it was intended to work. But it's just not the case. And then my theory of change versus their theory of change. So this is a good one. The speaker. Belief first. You take these 5 beliefs out of the human psyche en masse, and the money game collapses. Change has to come through worldview, and everyone has to change individually, not through policy tweaks or just better people in the same system. No traditional design is offered. Work and knowledge suffice once the illusion drops. No, it's not that they suffice in the face of a lack of a transitional design. It's that that's all that gets projects done, and that's just true. And so we strip away the illusion. Work and knowledge is still going to be all that gets projects done, but it doesn't mean you stop record keeping at all. Okay? And and like, doing projects with a certain level of sophistication and qualification as far as who can be super hands on with the project. All of that is good and necessary, and we already do all. So, in the author's Currencies as Social DNA essay is nearly a direct rebuttal to what it said. Social organisms won't heal by changing the mind of their cells, the people, because the pathology lives in the systemic pattern. So, basically, blame the system, not the people, not the behavior. It's not the behavior, it's the design of the system, you know? The encoded currencies. Change requires new expressive capacity and infrastructure. Hence, 20 years spent building the this in Holochain, not mass awakening. All is mind, says Nick. All is mind, so the belief part is right. Once you have that part sorted, you can create systems directly aligned with nature. Right. Or way more aligned with nature and way more aligned with truth than you know, uh uh what we have today and what we built on today. And the gap for the theories of change, the sharpest philosophical difference, the speaker holds that belief up that holds that belief upstream of structure. Brock holds that structure encodes belief and must be re-engineered at the pattern level. Ironically, the speaker's own Sumer story supports Brock. Illiterate farmers don't believe their way into the temple ledger system. They were embedded in its infrastructure. So infrastructure, not belief, is where the leverage sits. No, 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 no. It sits in belief, and that's where it sits at. Good people. I hope you had fun. I definitely did. At the end of this document, it says, it makes some assertions regarding things that it thinks I just got dead wrong. Um, One of them being the etymology of the word government. I don't believe that I'm wrong there, and it's not that I'm a linguist or super studied in the field of linguistics. It's more so I trust the person that said it to me and said it super multiple times in their presentations. That person being Mark Passio. He said, I'm tired of getting emails of people saying that it's I think mentum instead of mentis, meaning mind. It's mentum, which is just the suffix of a word. But no, uh, it definitely makes more human sense. And there has been plenty of words that they've changed the etymological record of in digital spaces and stopped printing the versions of the books that show the historic versions of the etymology. So I tend to believe Mr. Passio in that regard, and it names a couple other things that it thinks I got incorrect. But regardless, that's not what this video is about. This video was to react live to some of the very important pushback that this document um gave, and I love it. Right now, I laugh a lot. I also want you guys to be somewhat entertained, but I love fielding pushback to my core philosophy points. You know what I'm saying? Oh, there's a couple more comments popped up. This was fun, brother, and really appreciate the focus on natural systems and going through the particulars. Man, I'm glad you was here the whole episode, man. I owe you a coffee or something. Um, you're right on the government thing. Shitty AI, yeah. Super important topic. Love you. Much love. Absolutely, man. Um, thank you. Thank you for commenting. Please like the video. Like the video. Tell your friends to come like the video. Share it, share it far and wide. Definitely enjoyed going through this document. Please stick around for, or hit the noti bell or whatever so that y'all know when I'm going live next. Today is Monday, so I will definitely see you tomorrow for the next episode. And then, Wednesday, we got Sarah Cross coming for Wednesday Tea with Sarah. And Friday, we got Aaron coming back to the show. And Thursday, we got Miss Red coming back to the Inner Storyteller. We're gonna talk about some of the concepts that she's been putting forth on her platform on Instagram. Look out for Miss Red. She's a good friend, as well as a great human being. Really out here doing the utmost to try and bring a freedom aligned mindset to our fellow human beings out here in the world. Thank you all so much, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace and love always in all